Horizons on Crusade reaction. This is D-Day, the Great Crusade, Extra History, Part 1 by the channel Extra Credits. Yeah, D-Day, one of the biggest historical topic that can be World War II, and especially the D-Day that turned the tide. So yeah, this is gonna be a great video to react to. D-Day, June 6, 1944, the day when Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy to retake France from the Germans. They hoped to take Germans by surprise, and their decision to brave rough weather to make their landing suddenly accomplished that. But despite these small advantages, the American forces at Utah and Omaha Beach had to overcome monumental changes to establish a successful beachhead. Yeah, I mean, during the D-Day, it was a massive risk that they were taking. This is a literally sneak attack, but at the larger scale, which they had to get it right because they only get one chance. So I remember reacting to Dark 5 video in which obviously it says that first they created this kind of fake army, fake tanks and all that at Calais. So Germans would think that all these Allied forces are going to land at Calais, but obviously they were trying to land at Normandy because Calais is way too obvious. So they made all these fake soldiers, fake tanks, just to dupe Germans to think they're going to land at Calais, and then they wanted to do the surprise attack at Normandy. But all the videos I've seen, whatever knowledge I have, I could be wrong, but it was successful overall, but lots of things went wrong. All the paratroopers that landed, some landed where they're supposed to be, others just landed somewhere else. It was all chaotic basically. Their job was to secure the beaches so the larger army can sweep through there, and from there, from France to all the way to Germany, they could attack. So this was a really crucial day, and they had to keep it a secret, which is also not an easy thing to do. So it's gonna be fun. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cars all the plays like history with all of my historical videos, Interhistorian, Old Sakashik Proxon, Tier Zoo, CGB Grey. Yeah, that's what this one.
When the signal is given, the whole circle of avenging nations will hurl themselves upon the foe and batter out the life of the cruelest tyranny which has ever sought to bar the progress of mankind.
That signal comes today. This episode is sponsored by Wargaming. New players can download World of Tanks and use the code NEPTUNE for free goodies. Link in the description. D-Day.
Yeah, also, around this time, Hitler wanted to build fortifications, if I'm remember correctly. Yeah, he wanted to build forts and I guess lots of fortification at the French borders, because he knew that some kind of a massive Allied attack is coming. But he didn't have the money and resources to do that, so he basically fortified certain ports. That's it. Otherwise, his plan was to create a massive wall of forts and everything that would have made nearly impossible for Allied forces to go to all the way to Germany. But he ran out of all the money and resources. That's a trend when it comes to Nazi Germany. They wanted to accomplish so many things. They had ridiculously big plans, but they ran out of fuel, money, and all the resources. So basically, Hitler was so hung on to just taking everything. He was way fast and swift in whatever he was doing. He didn't plan for any time to gather resources and money. What if I run out of that? And around this time he was running out of that, and at the same particular time, Allied forces decide to attack at the Normandy. So if Hitler didn't run out of resources, and if Hitler had built all those forts and different things, and if he had the fuels for all the different jet planes and tanks, whatever he wanted to create more of, I don't know what the history would have been. All right, we know how effed up the Nazis were, how effed up the Hitler was, and how efficient he was. So that could have changed the tide towards Nazis if he didn't run out. But that's the thing, right? The way he just tried to take everything, the way he acted so fast, it was inevitable. He was going to run out of resources. You can't just single-handed try to take down everybody. So yeah.
June 6th, 1944. Months of effort have been building up to this day. Throughout England, 500,000 men have been gathered at staging areas to strike across the Channel as soon as the signal is given. Men from the United States, Britain, Canada, Australia, Belgium, Czechoslovakia, France, Greece, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, and Poland. Today, we'll be telling the American story, as best it can be told in a few short minutes, and over the coming weeks, thanks to the generous support of Wargaming, we will tell the story of 3 of the other major players involved. But that story begins with a dinner in Tehran in 1943. For the first time, the leaders of the most powerful Allied nations, the United States, the USSR, and the British Empire, met in one room. For years, Stalin, his nation battered by the Nazi invasion and bearing the brunt of the human cost of the war against Germany, had pressed the Allies to open up a second front to the war by invading France. The British had pushed back, arguing for operations in North Africa, and then an assault on Italy. But now, with the USSR winning on the Eastern Front, the demands from Stalin became harder to deny, and simultaneously, everyone started to think of the post-war settlement. If the Allies won without British and American troops liberating Western Europe, how could they stop the USSR from claiming huge swaths of land, and perhaps even, at least politically, dominating the continent?
That is so damn true, right? If US and Britain weren't there when, basically all the allies and Russia take over things, and Russia being the major party there, Russia would have just, play this card like, we are the only one who stopped the Hitler, we are the only one who stopped the Nazi, and just justify everything and take over most of the Europe at that time. And that would have been really hard to stop Soviet Union at that point. So I guess it was really real strategic move from Britain and USA to, I guess, we'll go along with that.
And so an agreement was made out in the deserts of Iran. The Western powers would open up a second front by invading France in May of 1944. Plans were drawn up. An amphibious operation of this size had never been tried. Men and material would have to be drawn back from around the world. New technologies would have to be invented. Engineering feats previously only discussed in conference rooms would have to be put to the test under wartime conditions. But the first decision that had to be made was where to land. There were 2 possible targets: Calais, the closest point in Europe to England, or Normandy, one of the farthest on the Channel coast. Calais was the sane, sensible place to land, but it had 2 notable disadvantages. First, terrain in which you could easily get bogged down, and second, the fact that it was the sane, sensible place to land. Reviewing the battle plan, Eisenhower and Montgomery were in agreement. They wanted the element of surprise, with the possibility of being able to rush off the beaches. So the decision was made. Normandy it would be. But this would require one of the greatest counterintelligence operations ever attempted to keep the secrets safe, not to mention the equipment and the manpower on an even greater scale. Entire harbors had to be fabricated which could be shipped over from England. More landing craft needed time to roll off the factory lines, so the operation was delayed until June. Finally, the day arrives, June 4th, 1944. Planes prep, final drills are run through, tens of thousands of men board ships for the invasion, and then the rain starts to roll in. Soon it becomes a storm. Ferocious waves sweep the channel. Clouds completely block the sky. High winds buffet any craft that ventures on sea, land, and especially air. Eisenhower is forced to make the decision. The attack must be delayed. Rain continues to pour the next day. A council of Allied commanders is called. If they delay again, they won't be able to launch until July. They need to do the channel crossing at night. They need to do commando raids and minesweeping when the unsuspecting Germans will have the fewest patrols out. But for a crossing of this magnitude, they need nearly full moon visibility. Even if they did decide to brave a launch without the full moon, tidal conditions wouldn't be right for another 2 weeks. What do? They've got thousands of men already holed up on boats, getting seasick and nervous and just plain stir-crazy. They've already started moving equipment and forces into staging areas which can clearly only be targeting one place, Normandy. And they've had to alert enough people up and down the chain as to the nature of the operation that with each passing day, the odds of keeping their landing location a secret plummet. But to cross in this weather...
Yeah, that is so true, right? I mean, when you're trying to attack one specific place, of course, you're going to try to get best strategic place and best strategic way to attack that. And if you gather equipments and your soldiers at a certain point, anybody with any kind of a military mind can just guess where you're going to attack. So if you delay that much, you just stay there for 2 weeks. All your men, first of all, feeding all those men, keeping them, I guess, motivated, keeping morale up, and keeping all those men equipment there, and not leaking the word to the Germans. That's extremely hard. If they had waited for 2 weeks, I think Germans would have known it by then. That definitely Hitler would have known it, that okay, they are attacking Normandy. It would have been completely different. So they had to attack it at that point.
Weather, that would be madness. Then a captain is ushered in. He's an RAF meteorologist, and he is about to make what may well be the most consequential weather report of all time. He says he believes it's going to be clear on the 6th. Eisenhower nods. The operation is a go. 6,000 ships begin to steam across the channel.
Yeah, and today any weather report comes that it's going to be sunny. At that time it rains. Whenever they say it's going to be rain, and that is the time when it's sunny or at best overcast. But at this point it's like, okay, this is one of the most crucial time. We have lots of manpower. We only have one go at this, and I believe it's going to be clear at 6 June. And Eisenhower was like, we don't have any other option, I guess.
Sweepers fan out ahead of them, clearing a path. For weeks, the Allied forces have bombed the German Air Force in the region nearly to oblivion. No enemy interceptors exist to spot the waves of gliders and transport planes carrying 17,000 airborne troops. The ships won't reach the beaches until dawn, but the airborne infantry has night work to do. First in are the Pathfinders.
Okay, I think they probably bombed it all the different places, not just where they're supposed to launch the attack, because that would have gave easier signal to Nazis, like, why are they attacking so ferociously here? That means they're going to attack from here. I guess they attacked it from all different sides, and obviously, like I said, fake army, fake tanks and everywhere at Calais. Basically, they bombed all the way at the Normandy side and the Calais side.
The men whose job it is to light the drop zones for all the other parachute infantry. Of the 4 planes carrying these Pathfinders, one overshoots their target, another has to bail before ever getting to France, and the remaining 2 kept most of their signaling gear in the ditched plane, leaving them desperately trying to signal the paratroopers by waving flashlights at the passing airplanes. The paratrooper drop goes even worse.
From the start, it's going downhill. From the start, the Pathfinders kept all their equipment in one plane, and that is the plane that bailed basically. So they had to use flashlights. Damn.
Scattered by enemy anti-aircraft fire and blinded by low clouds, paratroopers jump from altitudes that are either too high, leaving them drifting slowly, unable to do anything but watch as enemy guns spit shrapnel up at them, or too low, breaking bones on landing as their parachutes don't have enough time to slow their fall. They're scattered all over, many of them landing miles from their drop zones, some landing in marshes or rivers, others being slaughtered as they drop right into the middle of the enemy. It was a harrowing and confusing night of chaotic firefights and desperate small unit actions. But the more veteran of the American airborne troops, groups like the Screaming Eagles and the 505th, managed to pull together to capture crucial road junctions, communication points, and bridges, and even destroyed some of the artillery batteries that would imperil the landing at Normandy. And they would hold fast, delaying or preventing any counterattack that might sweep the impending invasion back into the sea. Then there's the initial bombardment. Allied bombing runs go astray, causing massive damage to the civilian centers in Normandy, but doing little to weaken the dug-in German positions. As dawn breaks, though, the Allied gunners can finally see their targets, and the bombardment becomes far more effective, softening up the beach for the initial assault. But there's little time remaining until the troops' scheduled landing. At 6:30 a.m. on June 6, 1944, the klaxons sound, and the assault craft are released. They plow through the chop, men huddled in their tin shells as German fire pours down, sinking entire landing craft to the bottom of the sea.
Yeah, the landing craft is really effed up situation, because the raft that opens up, that was acting as a shield against the machine guns at the bunkers basically. And it was an open beach. It's a beach. Of course, it's open. There's nothing there. So it was an open beach facing directly all these bunkers with machine guns. They were getting saved by the raft that would open. And as soon as the raft opened, they were literally exposed to massive machine guns that would slaughter them. So it was so effed up, that situation. I mean, all those people went there to, basically strategically attack that, but it was chaotic because there is no other way. If you open the raft, entire, platoon of all the soldiers is completely open to the machine guns. As soon as the raft opens, the machine guns start to shred everybody around. They had to, basically jump inside the water from the side and, crawl to the beaches, and, it's just effed up all around. Lots of rafts like this, sank. Obviously the paratrooper situation, some of them directly went to the soldiers, they just shot them from the air. Some of them fall down, broke their bones, and can't do nothing about it.
Just off the Normandy coast. Then the assault craft hit the beach, ramps drop, and men charge out. But on Utah Beach, things have already gone horribly. The men look around them and the terrain's all wrong. They've landed on the wrong beach.
Damn.
Luckily for the Americans, the oldest man in the invasion, and the only general to actually join these ground troops, Teddy Roosevelt Jr., happens to have landed with them.
Wait a minute, is that the son of the president, Junior? So, could be.
The local commanders ask him what they should do, and living up to his namesake, he simply responds, "We'll start the war from right here." He correctly assessed that the beach that they'd landed on was actually a better, more easily takeable landing point than the one that the senior staff had assigned them. In a miracle of heroism and logistical coordination, he managed to reroute the entire Utah Beach invasion force to his location, direct the battle, and continuously rally the men as he walked the beach with his cane, waving his pistol. His new Utah Beach would be the first beach successfully overrun, and for his actions there...
So I guess that's why he went with the troops, right? He had, massive health issues. That's why he was having his last hurrah, I guess. Walking with cane, waving his gun. After 36 days after this, he died of a heart attack.
He would be awarded the Medal of Honor. Omaha, though, was a different story. Here, the pre-landing bombardment had been even less effective. The seas were choppy, landing craft took on water, and men tried to bail with their helmets. Some of the landing craft sank, and those that landed were filled with retching, seasick men. Much of the armored support that was supposed to follow them foundered in the waves, or simply got picked off as they hit the shore. Soon, the men were all pinned down against a small shingle of land that provided what little cover there was to be found on the beach. Many of the units had taken heavy casualties, and much of the command staff was dead. With units getting washed ashore in the wrong places, or scattered in the desperate scramble to try to get to the small ridge of sand that served as cover, the assault had become hopelessly disorganized. The second wave met with much the same fate. Hopelessly bogged down, withdrawal from Omaha Beach was considered, but it was the vital linking point between the British and American forces. As the day wore on, a number of Ranger units began to rally and scaled the bluffs, finally managing to assault German positions on the heights. At the same time,
I think I played Call of Duty 2. It was 2, I'm pretty sure. Way years ago, when Call of Duty was actually proper Call of Duty. In that, I think they show this D-Day and scaling the walls and attacking the forts situation. I guess one of the latest game, Call of Duty World War II, also had this, Normandy thing. But, earliest installments of Call of Duty was just great. They capture, battlefield awesomely. Current Call of Duty is more like movie, theatrical type of thing, not more realistic type of take, which I don't like much. But yeah, damn, this is just effed up, all this situation. You would think that this operation would be just surgical and extremely precise, but no, they had no choice. They had to do it like that. The weather was not in their side. All the equipment they were trying out was experimental at best. There were so many casualties.
Several of the naval ships came dangerously close to the beach to provide more effective support fire just as the German ammunition began to run out. Even after all of this, Omaha Beach wasn't truly cleared by the end of the 6th. But as the sun began to set on those bloodied beaches, it was clear that the American forces were there to stay. Join us next time as we join the British for their covert efforts to keep the biggest invasion in history a secret.
Damn, this operation with the scale, it's really unthinkable. Whenever the war is at stake, people's lives are at stake. Humans come with really ingenious way to do things. That's what happened during the D-Day. All the covert operations, all the surgical attacks, the crucial attacks, any one of them, if they had gone wrong, it would have been changed the whole tide of wars. All of them had to go perfectly. I'm not talking about the storming beaches, but lots of secret operation they did, taking out things, taking out lots of guns and things. That's what just ridiculous. During this time when the Germany occupied entire France, in the France, soldiers were seen as this evil people by the all the common people of the France. People couldn't go out of their house. Kids cannot play outside. Whenever they see somebody in the uniform, they see somebody who's evil, I guess. After the D-Day, when actually Allied forces arrived there, their perception of soldiers changed. They actually cheered for soldiers first time in a long time, basically, and they actually had hope, like these people are here to save us. And there was a real morale booster for all these Allied forces. They saw people cheering, helping the soldiers, vice versa, and it gave a real morale booster to all these soldiers. Damn, this was this ridiculous scale. Even today, historians are still trying to figure out exact number of how many people died during this time in World War World War II, and in D-Day. Damn. Alright people, that was D-Day, the Great Crusade Extra History Part 1 by the channel Extra Credits. If you like my Rick Sandro, like and subscribe. Check out the Rick Sandro, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast role, please check out the end cards, and I guess I'll see you next time.